It started as a routine call, one officer rushing to a quiet suburban street, another dispatched to an abandoned house across town. But within minutes, both radios lit up with the same chilling report: "We have a body." What should have been two isolated cases began unfolding in eerie synchronicity. Two separate locations, two horrific discoveries, and one terrifying question that left investigators shaken. Could these crimes be connected, or was something even darker lurking in plain sight? Don't miss out on the next chilling mystery. Hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you're the first to know when new stories drop. On the surface, it was just another Wednesday night. Officer Daniel Hayes, a 10-year veteran of the force, drove his usual patrol through the quiet streets of Millhaven, a town where serious crime was rare, and disturbances rarely escalated beyond noise complaints. Meanwhile, across town, Detective Sarah Monroe, known for her sharp instincts and unyielding composure, was responding to reports of trespassing at a long-abandoned property. Both officers expected routine calls. Hayes was checking on a house where neighbors claimed the door had been left ajar. Monroe, flashlight in hand, prepared to sweep a building that local teens often dared each other to enter. Nothing about their assignments hinted at danger, and yet, each felt an undercurrent of unease they couldn't explain, as if the town itself was holding its breath. As Hayes parked near the suburban home, he noticed something unusual. No lights, no movement, yet the air felt heavy, unnaturally still. Across town, Monroe approached the derelict house and found fresh footprints in the dirt leading up the cracked steps, footprints too large to belong to local kids. Neither officer knew that within the hour, their separate calls would converge into a nightmare. Two scenes, two victims, and a mystery that would stretch far beyond the borders of Millhaven, forcing investigators to confront the possibility that coincidence wasn't at play, but something far more deliberate. Inside the quiet suburban home, Officer Hayes pushed the door open, its hinges groaning into the silence. The living room was strangely pristine. No signs of forced entry, no broken glass, no overturned furniture. But something felt wrong. The air was thick, almost stagnant, as though the house itself hadn't been disturbed in years. As Hayes swept his flashlight across the floor, he caught it, a single shoe, abandoned near the couch. It was small, delicate, and out of place in a family home with no children listed on record. His radio crackled to life. But before he could respond, his light traced upward to a framed photograph on the wall, a smiling couple, but the woman's face had been scratched out, gouged deep with something sharp. Across town, Detective Monroe's footsteps echoed through the abandoned property. Graffiti coated the walls, but fresh dust had been disturbed along the hallway floor. She crouched, running her gloved fingers along a set of scuff marks, leading to a basement door. Her chest tightened. Teenagers may have broken in before, but these marks were recent, deliberate. She pulled the door open slowly, the hinges shrieking. The basement was colder than it should have been. A faint drip echoed from somewhere in the shadows. As her flashlight beam cut across the concrete, she froze. On the wall, painted in uneven strokes of dark red, not blood, but some kind of paint, were the words, "She's not supposed to be here." At nearly the same moment, Hayes reached the second floor of his house call. Every door was closed, except one. He pushed it open to reveal a bedroom untouched, except for the bed. On it lay a mannequin, dressed in women's clothing, its glass eyes staring directly at the door. The room smelled faintly of perfume, but there were no signs of anyone living there. Monroe, in the basement, uncovered something equally disturbing. A table stood in the center of the room, covered in newspaper clippings about missing persons. Each one carefully circled in ink, with dates scrawled along the margins. 2 officers, 2 locations, both uncovering scenes that didn't just suggest violence, they suggested obsession. and though separated by miles, Hayes and Monroe were staring at evidence that pointed toward the same chilling conclusion. Whoever was behind this wasn't just staging crime scenes, they wanted to be found. Just as Officer Hayes radioed in his bizarre discovery, Detective Monroe's voice cut through the static on the same channel. Their words overlapped, each describing details from entirely different locations, yet uncannily similar in tone. An obsession with women, staged artifacts, and the chilling presence of someone unseen. Dispatch fell silent. Then came the realization. Both addresses had been flagged in old case files. Years earlier, a man named Victor Dalka, a reclusive maintenance worker, had been questioned in connection to a string of disappearances. He was never charged, but his name lingered like a ghost in the background of unsolved cases. The house Hayes entered once belonged to Dalka's sister. The abandoned property Monroe was searching, Dalka himself had lived there before vanishing a decade earlier. The officers were standing in shrines to the same man. Two places tied by bloodline and obsession, one arranged as a tribute, the other as a warning. Hayes, unsettled, noticed something new in the bedroom. Taped beneath the mannequin's hand was a folded piece of paper. He pulled it free, the ink smeared but legible. It read, "She's at the other house." At that exact moment, Monroe shone her flashlight deeper into the basement. On the table, amidst the clippings, lay a driver's license belonging to a missing woman reported just days earlier. The license wasn't aged or yellowed like the others. It was fresh, her photo crisp. The horrifying truth struck them both. This wasn't a relic of the past. Someone was still out there. Someone who had orchestrated both discoveries at the same time, taunting police to connect the dots. The question was no longer who Victor Dalka had been, but who had picked up where he left off. In the weeks that followed, Mill Haven became a town gripped by unease. The discoveries made by Hayes and Monroe set off one of the most exhaustive investigations the department had ever seen. Dozens of officers combed through the suburban home and the abandoned property, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that seemed deliberately designed to mislead. But despite the evidence, the mannequin, the note, the driver's license, no living suspect was ever found. Victor Dalka, long vanished, was confirmed dead after remains believed to be his were unearthed in a shallow grave far from either crime scene. That revelation only deepened the mystery. If Dalka had been gone for years, then who was responsible for staging his legacy so meticulously? Officer Hayes eventually transferred out of Mill Haven, the weight of that night following him into every new assignment. Detective Monroe, however, remained. She poured herself into cold case files, convinced that the staged crime scenes were the work of someone intimately familiar with Dalka's history, perhaps even someone he once knew. Today, the case remains officially unsolved. Families of the missing still leave flowers at the abandoned property, a quiet vigil to those whose stories ended without answers. The houses themselves sit empty, but whispers persist of lights flickering on in the night, of footsteps echoing where no one lives. And while investigators continue to revisit the evidence, one fact endures. Someone wanted police to make those discoveries at the same time, as if unveiling a performance. Whether it was meant as a warning, a confession, or a cruel game remains unclear. What is certain, though, is that Mill Haven has never truly slept since that night. Even now, years later, the night of the twin discoveries feels less like police work and more like a haunting performance staged for an unwilling audience. Two crime scenes revealed in perfect synchronicity. Two officers pulled into the same nightmare, and yet no resolution, no arrest, no clear answers. What lingers is not just the horror of what was found, but the precision of how it was revealed. Someone, somewhere, wanted law enforcement to look into those places at the exact same moment. That kind of orchestration suggests control, planning, and an unnerving awareness of how fear can spread when uncertainty takes root. For Officer Hayes, distance brought no comfort. For Detective Monroe, time has only deepened the obsession. And for Milhaven, the case remains a scar that never quite healed. A reminder that justice can be delayed and sometimes denied altogether. But perhaps the most chilling thought is this: if someone went to such lengths to build a spectacle out of crime scenes, what else might they have orchestrated that still lies undiscovered? And if the houses were only meant as a message, then who is truly being spoken to? The police? Or all of us? With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.